Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear me. All right. Guys, thanks for joining us. This is so awesome. For those of you that don't know me, my name is James Marin. I'm a holistic registered dietitian, environmental nutritionist. You may have seen me before on the videos. Happy weekend, happy Sunday. I'm here Sunday evening. Just want to talk to you guys, want to be your extra support for the upcoming week, okay? I know things can get hectic. I had a busy day. It was crazy, but I'm here. I want to talk to you. I want to hear from you. I want to answer your questions. Hi, everyone. Awesome. People are signing on. Great stuff. Again, I want to be your support for the coming week, okay? Tomorrow's Monday. What have you guys got going on? You're going to work, taking the kids to school. What the heck are you going to eat? How are you going to control your diabetes? How are you going to make sure your blood sugar doesn't spike? For those of you that are maybe pre-diabetic or aren't sure if you're diabetic or not, are you eating healthy? And so in this session, what we're going to focus on is the true cause of diabetes. Because if you guys have been watching our videos on YouTube and pretty soon on Facebook, we're going to be letting you guys know that really sugar and carbohydrates are not the underlying cause of diabetes, okay? They may cause some of your symptoms, but that's not why you got diabetes, okay? Now, let me clarify, okay? Sugar and carbohydrates don't cause diabetes. Processed sugar, processed carbohydrates can cause, and more likely they're going to increase your symptoms of diabetes, okay? So there's a big difference between refined sugar and carbohydrates and just regular sugar and carbohydrates, okay? So we're going to get into that. And today, guys, we're going to get into the underlying cause. So then if sugar and carbohydrates aren't the cause of diabetes, then what is the cause of diabetes, okay? Why do you have high blood sugar? Why is your insulin not responding to that blood sugar, right? Why is your pancreas not making enough insulin, okay? And so maybe you guys are familiar with these terms. I'm sure your doctor has talked to you about these terms. I'm sure you've heard insulin and blood sugar and A1C and fasting glucose, right? Maybe some of you are on insulin. Maybe some of you are on metformin. Maybe some of you are on different types of insulin, right? So this applies to everyone, okay? This applies to everyone. The only exception is that there is a difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes, okay? Usually in type 1, it's a pancreatic problem. Your pancreas is just not producing enough insulin, okay? So you have type 1, you just don't have enough insulin. In type 2, which is a majority of you, I bet, how many of you are type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic or gestational? That kind of all falls into the type 2 category. Okay, let me know. You guys can comment or give a thumbs up if you're type 2 diabetic, because 90 to 95% of you out there are type 2 diabetic, okay? So that's different. It's not that your pancreas isn't making enough insulin, it's that your cells are not responding to insulin, okay? This is something doctors and nurses and diabetes educators don't always tell you, okay? They don't always tell you that, hey, it's your cells that aren't responding to insulin. So then I ask you this question: why aren't your cells responding to insulin? Do any of you know? So why the heck wouldn't your cells respond to insulin? Why all of a sudden are your cells like, nah, I'm not gonna listen? So I'm seeing some responses. So someone said poor gene pool, right? So we think of genetics, okay? That could be. Let's get into that. So someone said genetics. So we all are given genetics, right? We all have DNA from our mom and dad and beyond, right? All of our ancestors. Here's my analogy for genetics, okay? We all have a gun. I know this is very controversial right now, but it's a great analogy, okay? So never mind the gun, whether you love guns or hate guns, okay? But we all have a gun, okay? And the genetics are the bullets, okay? Your DNA is the bullets. And the gun represents lifestyle, okay? So it's the trigger on the gun, okay? That's lifestyle. Remember, your genetics are the bullets. Lifestyle will pull the trigger on your genetics, okay? So let's say for a lot of you, for a lot of us out there, the first bad bullet that we got in there is diabetes. It's insulin sensitivity, right? It has to do with those diabetes symptoms. Now, when we eat the cupcake, when we eat the cookie, when we eat the refined carbohydrates, when we eat lots of fried foods and lots of greasy foods, we're pulling the trigger, okay? And this trigger gets pulled multiple times a day. multiply that by weeks and months and years, and pretty soon you're like, what the heck is this hole in my arm? Where did that come from? Okay, so genetics can play a role, but you see that it's this relationship between the bullets being the genetics and your lifestyle pulling the trigger. What's really cool is if you change your lifestyle, you can take your finger off the trigger and stop shooting yourself. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. If that made sense, go ahead and give another thumbs up. If you have a question, comment below. I'm going to be taking your questions, guys, okay? So hopefully that made sense. So that's where, yeah, it could be genetics, but a lot of it, it's equal. It's 50-50 between genetics and lifestyle, okay? So now getting to the underlying cause of diabetes, and then what was it? So I mentioned some things there. But really then, right, I said that your cell is not responding to insulin. Okay, so why is that? Well, there's something called, basically it's intralipids, right? So basically like intracellular lipids. So a lot of times fat can gum up the cell, which blocks the signal, which then insulin does not talk to the cell. This is something you rarely, if ever hear about, okay? And let me see, I have some questions here. Right. And so, yeah, Carolyn, so I saw your comment there. Someone said, again, I did make it clear in the beginning, I'm speaking on type 2 right now, okay? Because I explained type 1 is your pancreas not producing enough insulin. Type 2 is this underlying reason, okay? So for those of you that are type 2, which is 90 to 95% of you, this is usually why you have type 2, okay? So basically, and also I want to comment on this, is that those of you out there with type 2, you most likely have high cholesterol, high triglycerides, your LDL and HDL, which are your bad and good fats, are usually out of whack as well. Or for those of you that have type 2 diabetes, you're usually on a statin, right? Like a Lipitor, you're on some type of cholesterol lowering medication, right? And because those two things go hand in hand, okay? Again, the underlying cause of type 2 diabetes is usually too much cholesterol, too much saturated fat, too much trans fat. This is going to come from lots of cheese, lots of fried food, okay? I know this isn't a popular subject. This isn't popular when I tell my patients this. My patients are like, oh, no way, this can't be. We've heard it was the opposite. It's all the sweets. And again, I mentioned this earlier, don't get me wrong, the cupcakes and cookies and white bread and a bunch of the white crackers aren't going to help. But we're talking about the underlying cause. The underlying cause is your cell is not talking to insulin, okay? And that is because these fats go into your cell. Now, why do they go into your cell? It's your body's defense mechanism, okay? When your liver gets overwhelmed, when you have a lot of blood sugar coming in, when you have a lot of fat coming in, your body's trying to protect you. Your body is trying to put that fat somewhere. So it's going to go into your muscle cells. It's going to go into your liver cells. It's going to go wherever it can. You're going to store body fat, okay? But even body fat can mess things up, okay? If you have too much body fat, that's part of the endocrine system, and that's still going to mess with your pancreas and insulin, okay? So it's too much fat, and then your cells, the signaling gets messed up, and it's basically, I give this analogy to my patients, okay? It's like you have a hoarder, okay? You have a hoarder, and instead of someone being in a room where the key comes, which is insulin, and they can open the door and say, hi, great, bring on the glucose, come into the cell, okay? Instead, your cell became a hoarder. It ordered a bunch of stuff off Amazon or wherever. It was doing a bunch of online shopping. The room is full of furniture. The room is full of stuff. So now when insulin comes, knock, knock, it can't open the door because the room is full. Okay, that's like your cell. The cell is full of fat. Insulin's trying to knock on the door and it can't open, okay? And for those of you that may be extremely overweight, maybe you're obese, or maybe you're just slightly overweight, it doesn't matter, okay? This can still be the case for you. And it's even more so usually for those people who aren't extremely obese. That's because your body is doing such a great job of trying to put that fat wherever it can store it. So a lot of you have this intracellular fat because your body's just trying to store fat wherever it can. So maybe you're not obese or morbidly obese, but your body is dealing with a large amount of saturated fat, cholesterol, trans fat, and it's trying to keep you healthy. And it's doing this by storing the fat wherever it can, okay? So I saw lots of questions coming. So I'm gonna try, if I don't get to answer all your questions right now, after this video ends, you're gonna be able to rewatch it. I'll comment down below and answer as many questions as possible, if not all the questions, okay? So hang tight with us. Let me see what we got. So, cool. And how are you guys doing tonight? Are you guys doing okay? Did you guys have a great weekend? Did you eat dinner already? Or depending what time it is where you are. Hope everyone's doing well again. And for those that just joined, welcome. It's great to have you. It's great to see you. And I want you guys to comment as well on the day and time you want to do this, because we're looking to do this quite often. I want this to be a virtual support group, okay? I want to be there for you guys. And again, for those of you that just joined, maybe you don't know who the heck I am. My name is James. I'm a holistic registered dietitian. I have my own practice. I see patients pretty much every single day from all over the country, all over the world. And so I specialize in diabetes, okay? I help my patients reverse their symptoms, which is possible despite what maybe you've been told, okay? And for a majority of you out there, you are type 2, and type 2 diabetes can be reversed, okay? Those symptoms can be reversed, okay? So again, we just went over for type 2 diabetics, the cause, okay? The cause is that intracellular fat. It's not letting insulin talk to it. It's not letting it open the door to glucose, okay? How many of you guys have heard this before? Have you guys heard this, that it's actually intracellular fat that causes diabetes? Doesn't that make sense? So cool, I see some thumbs up and everything. Cool. You know, and it makes sense, right? Because I want to say that, you know, we've evolved over thousands of years, or at least for, you know, for whatever you believe, whether it was thousands or millions of years, our bodies have been using sugar, right? Our bodies have been using sugar to survive, okay? And I've had a lot of questions about bread, so I like that, okay? So I have a lot of questions about bread, but let me finish this thought, okay? We've been, for thousands or millions of years, we've run off sugar, okay? Our body is designed to run off sugar. It's called glucose, okay? So we run off this sugar called glucose, and this glucose comes from the foods we eat, okay? So therefore, if our body, our brain, our liver, our kidneys, our blood, our muscle, our bone, all runs on glucose, which is a sugar, how is it that glucose or sugar is the cause? Really, it's not. And don't get me wrong, again, I'll put this disclaimer, okay, that sugar has changed, okay? Sugar has changed over the last 80 to 100 years, okay? And I use a drug analogy, okay? We've had the coca plant, okay, the coca plant. Then we decided, oh, we can make cocaine from the coca plant. Then from cocaine, we went to crack. And the point I'm making is that as we started to process our plant foods, as we started to process foods more and more, it becomes more addictive and more dangerous. And the example I give to my patients is, no one ever goes and grabs a big bag of apples and sits in front of the TV and says, I can't stop eating these apples, right? Who does that? Nobody, okay? You grab the crackers, you grab the chips, you grab the ice cream, you grab the cookies. It's usually those things, or it's bread, right? Or whatever, French bread, muffins that you can't stop eating, that you can eat too much of, okay? It's never the Brussels sprouts, the apples, you know, the whatever, the carrots, right? So that's the point where as you process foods, they become more dangerous, more addictive, you gain weight, you increase your risk of diabetes and heart disease, et cetera, okay? And the way I relate that crack and cocaine example is to corn, right? We've had corn for thousands of years, but just recently we said, oh, let's make corn syrup. And then from corn syrup, we made high fructose corn syrup. And if you guys are eating anything in a package, you'll see there's tons of sugar and stuff, right? If you buy anything in a package, from yogurt to peanut butter to crackers to cereal, you know, for you and your family or the kids or the grandkids, there's sugar in everything. And of course, it's usually that high processed sugar, whether it's coming from corn or beets. But again, guys, the more of that stuff you're eating, that is carbohydrates, but it's the highly processed, dangerous carbohydrates. When I say carbohydrates and sugar are good, I'm talking about the natural, unprocessed carbohydrates, okay, guys? So there's a big difference, and that's where a majority of this confusion comes from, is don't eat carbohydrates, which I agree with. Don't eat the refined, processed carbohydrates. Do eat the unrefined, unprocessed, complex carbohydrates, okay? So a lot of questions on bread, okay? So with bread, now again, that being said, right, unrefined, unprocessed carbohydrates are good. You want to find an unprocessed, unrefined bread. How do you think you're going to know if it's unrefined or unprocessed? What do you guys think? Comment. I'll wait. If no one knows, then that's fine. We'll move on. But what do you think? Where would you look at? You know, if you're looking for a bread, where would you look to find unprocessed, unrefined bread? Do 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 do. I won't sing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I made you endure that. Anyway, so let's see. So yeah, someone mentioned whole wheat bread. They're saying, so yeah, so it's going to be the ingredients, guys. It's going to be the ingredients. The ingredients will tell you if the bread is unrefined and unprocessed, okay? So that's where you're going to look, because again, if you're seeing in the ingredients, maybe the first ingredient is good, but there's a lot of deception out there, okay, guys? The first ingredient might say whole grains. So someone mentioned whole grains. I don't know. Or someone said, I don't have a clue. Okay, so the first ingredient might say whole grains. Yeah, Stephanie, you're right. The ingredients. Robin said, make your own. Yeah, you can make your own bread. Then you know exactly what's in the bread, okay? So, but even if you're making your own or you're buying your own bread, you want to look for 100% whole grain. That should be the first ingredient, whether it's spelt or it's wheat or whatever, or you're doing a brown rice bread, you know, whatever whole grain, it should say 100% whole brown rice or whole wheat, or if it's a mixture of wheat and maybe it has flaxseed, right? So you're seeing ingredients that are whole food ingredients. That's how you're going to know it's not a refined, processed, dangerous bread, right? So remember that example. It's not going to be cocaine. You don't want it to be crack. Okay, what are some examples of crack bread? What I call crack bread to my patients is unfortunately going to be all the yummy ones, right? So it's going to be the French bread, right? It's going to be the croissants. That's crack bread. Have you guys ever eaten a croissant and it just melts in your mouth, right? It's basically just butter and white flour, and it just completely dissolves in your mouth because it has no fiber whatsoever. Okay, so that's a good way to know that your bread is crack bread, okay? Because it has no fiber, it just completely melts in your mouth. You don't even really have to chew. You just leave it in there and it'll dissolve and no chewing required, okay? So fiber and whole grains and the breads that have all those seeds and nuts and, you know, all those yummy whole grains, which they can be yummy, okay, you're going to need to chew it because it has fiber. That's what's going to protect you. Again, guys, that example of you don't sit in front of the TV and eat Brussels sprouts, right? You don't sit in front of the TV and go to town on a head of cabbage, okay? Because those foods, you know, they really don't appeal to us, especially when you got some, you know, cake or you got some soda or you got some crackers sitting there that make your mouth water, okay? Because, you know, evolutionary wise, we're hardwired that way, okay? And so someone said, what about coconut bread? So coconut bread's interesting. Coconut bread, that's usually like a gluten-free product. They're using a coconut flour. That can be good, okay? That can be good. It really depends on what other ingredients are there. Someone said, what about Ezekiel bread? Okay, Ezekiel bread's a great example because if you read the ingredients of Ezekiel bread, most of their breads, I'm not sure all, okay? And especially they're always coming out with new ones. But I would say most of the Ezekiel breads do not have added sugar, and they're made with whole food ingredients. So that's a great bread, okay? And we can get into that more, but we'll maybe say that for another time, okay? But because again, there's this thing where, okay, your diet isn't going to really be made up of a majority of grains, right? So you want to do more vegetables, fruits, legumes, grains, then nuts and seeds. Okay, that's gonna how it kind of breaks down, but we'll get into that in a later event. Okay, in a later live. Let me see. So someone said I stopped eating hamburgers and pizza. Okay, that's cool. That brings up a great point. Because what I would say is don't change the menu, change the ingredients. Okay, so you technically can still eat hamburgers and pizza. You just have to tweak the ingredients. That's what my patients probably always hear me say this: tweak, tweak. I'm always saying tweak, tweak, tweak. You know, and we're just gonna tweak the ingredients, because technically pizza, if you made a homemade pizza with whole grain crust, and then you use if you did a homemade pizza sauce, or now there's marinara sauces with no added sugar. They use whole ingredients. You did a ton of veggies. And the way I do it, I use cashew cheese, because remember, if you just joined us, right, we're talking about the bad fats. We talked about bad fats. That is actually the root cause of your diabetes, okay? We always talk about the symptoms of diabetes. What are the symptoms of diabetes? The symptoms of diabetes are high blood sugar, right? And then we can go down the list. Headache, dizziness, nausea, but again, it all stems from the high blood sugar. More severe, we talk about, the tingling, right? Neuropathy. We talk about nephropathy, which is kidney damage. You can get amputations, but it all stems from the symptom of high blood sugar. Again, that's the symptom. What is the cause? The cause is intracellular fat. The cause, it's not sugar that's disrupting the communication from your cell to insulin. No, it's not the sugar. It's the fat within the cell. Okay. So my pizza example, right? So that's why I use a cashew cheese, or I use an almond cheese. Okay. But my point is, you could still have a yummy, delicious pizza. We're just tweaking the ingredients to make sure they're going to feed you nutrition and not just feed your belly empty calories. Okay. Someone said no ketchup. Yeah. I mean, condiments are a huge source of fat, huge source of sugar. Okay. Someone else said I loved eating steamed broccoli and cauliflower. Use a cauliflower for potatoes and pizza crust. Oh yeah. So yeah, there's the cauliflower pizza crust. Okay. And this is where, guys, this is where we're all on a journey. Okay. What I tell my patients is that, and someone said, let's talk about prevention when you have time. Okay. So I don't forget my thought. We're all on a journey. I'm going to continue that thought. All of this is in regards to prevention. Okay. I know many of you out there have diabetes. Everything I'm saying to help reverse your diabetes and beat your diabetes is also the way to prevent your diabetes. Make no mistake, if you've watched my videos on YouTube, we are all at risk for diabetes, okay? If you live in a first world country, if you can go out to the street and go find food anywhere you look, right? Whether it's a CVS, or it's a fast food or a restaurant or a supermarket, you're at risk for diabetes, okay? So everything I'm saying is a way to help prevent, and it's a way to help also reverse symptoms, okay? Now back to my point. I know we're kind of running out of time, so we have about maybe like 5 minutes left roughly. So get in your questions. I'm gonna try and answer as much as I can live, but definitely if you have a question, still comment. If I don't get to it here live, I'm going to answer it afterwards, okay? So in the comments below, so we can continue the conversation. What I tell my patients is that everyone is climbing a mountain, okay? It's your health mountain, okay? And so I tell my patients this because I get some patients every now and then who want me to do the work for them, okay? Who want me to carry them and do all the work and climb for them, okay? It's not how it works. What I'm here to do, what my passion is to give you the right tools and the right gear and to be your guide. But you're gonna do all the climbing, okay? That's the honest truth, okay? You're gonna do all the climbing. And you are gonna choose the pace in which you climb. And what brought this to mind is some of you are, we're all gonna start at the bottom of the mountain, but some of you have maybe climbed up this mountain already. And so at the bottom, maybe we're just trying to add more veggies to our pizza. Maybe we're trying the cashew cheese. Maybe we're doing the whole grain crust. Some of you have climbed up and like, hey, I'm doing cauliflower crust, right? So you're just higher up on that mountain. We're all on this journey together, but you're going to do it at your own pace. But it's my passion to give you the right tools, to give you the right equipment, to be the correct guide, because there's a lot of people putting misinformation out there, and it's not always their fault, okay? And if you've seen my videos on YouTube before, you know, there's a lot of corruption out there. I'm going to be very, very honest. I've seen it in the research. I've seen it in the universities. There's so much corruption out there. And so it really just messes things up, because we're here, no, cheese is good, no, cheese is bad, no, eggs are good, no, eggs are bad, carbs are bad, no, carbs are good. And so what I try and do is sift through all that nonsense for you. I look at peer-reviewed research that has proper funding and proper, you know, study design. They use the right statistical analysis. And so that takes a lot of time, but that's my profession. That's what I do, okay? And so I hope that mountain analogy makes sense, right? Everyone could be on different spots of the mountain. Everyone's climbing at their own pace. Okay, it's not a race. But this is the point I make, because for my patients, I'm not here to give you a quick fix up the mountain. I'm here to help you have a lifelong success. I'm here to help you, whether you're trying to lose weight, or I'm sure you're trying to beat your diabetes and reverse your symptoms. We're going to do that for the rest of your life, not just for a 3-month program, not just for a 6-month program. You know, we're going to do this until, you know, you're 95 years old. Okay, we want to keep diabetes away. We want to keep it, you know, the symptoms completely reversed, okay? So someone said, how many carbs per meal would you recommend, okay? That's a very tough question, guys, because one thing by law, I'm actually limited, is to give you specifics, kind of, right? Because I could get sued, okay? I can't really give specifics when I don't know your medical background, I don't know your labs, I don't know your medication. So that's where I work with my patients one-on-one and get all that, so I can give you specifics. But right now I can give you general, you know, so actually then the carbs per meal, and again, this is where I'm very different from most dietitians and diabetes educators and health professionals. Most of your meals should be carbohydrates. But again, when I say carbohydrates, I mean complex carbohydrates. And I mean, so at the bottom of your list, you know, meaning it's going to make up the majority of what you eat from carbohydrates, is going to be leafy greens and vegetables. But the vegetables can include carrots, it can be sweet potato, it can be purple potato, it can be beets and all those yummy root vegetables, cauliflower, broccoli, right? Then it can be fruit. Fruit is excellent. There are plenty of really well-designed studies with good funding, right? So not from a biased source, okay? They're not funded by the fruit, you know, lobbyists, okay? But with fruit, you can eat that, okay? A lot of studies have shown diabetics who eat fruit help to reverse their symptoms, okay? So, so carbohydrates per meal, it's going to make up a majority of your plate, but it's going to be complex carbohydrates, okay? Someone said, let me look really quick, about eggs. So we're asking about eggs. Let's see. So someone's talking about eggs. Okay. And that goes into what we're talking about, right? Because if you just joined us, or if you're here from the beginning, so eggs, right? Big source of fat, right? The yolk of the egg, if you're eating the yolk of the egg, that's pretty much all cholesterol, saturated fat, and trans fat, okay? And this is where we're going to get deeper into this. We're just hitting the surface, okay? So, and again, I'm keeping it pretty general. As we meet up again throughout the months, okay? I'm going to try and do this meetup in the support group about twice a month, okay? So again, comment below if you prefer a different time or date. But I think Sunday evening, everyone's kind of relaxed. We're getting ready for the week ahead. Taking some 30 minutes to ask questions and get prepared for the week, I think is great. But let me know what you think below. When it comes to egg, so if you're having really uncontrolled diabetes, right? And you're eating, it all depends on where you're at right now. Maybe you're eating 6 eggs a week. Maybe you're eating 3 eggs a week. You know, this whole idea really is, what I'm trying to tell you is, you want to increase your plant foods, okay? Because these animal fats are going to, again, disrupt the communication between your cell and insulin, okay? So if you're intaking too much fat, it could be from butter, it could be from eggs, it could be from fried food, it could be from a big steak as well. This is where it gets really controversial, okay? I even say fish and chicken are also big sources of cholesterol and saturated fat, okay? And again, this is where we're hitting the surface, because if we go deeper, we're going to see that really it's what we're doing to our animals a lot of the time, right? We're treating fish like we treat our cows and our chickens. Okay, so the fish are now being kept in these big pens, and we're feeding them corn and soy and all these, you know, genetically modified crops that they normally would not eat, and we're changing their fat profiles. Okay, we're changing the way they're grown. Okay, so yeah, so with eggs, you know, limit them wherever you are. You know, there's other great things to eat for breakfast. My number one thing, if you're eating a hard-boiled egg or a scrambled egg every day for breakfast, switch it up. Do a whole grain cereal with no added sugar. Do an oatmeal with chopped up dates and raisins and, you know, berries and nuts. So mix it up, right? We talked about Ezekiel bread. Do some Ezekiel bread with a nut butter, whether it's a cashew butter or peanut butter. Okay, switch it up from just doing the egg every single morning. Okay, and guys, I hope this helps. So we talked about why you have diabetes. We didn't just talk about the symptoms, right? You hear about the symptoms all the time, right? High blood sugar, and then it goes down, right? You have this negative domino effect. High blood sugar, high A1C, you know, you're getting some tingling, you're getting a headache, you're feeling fatigue. Okay, those are all symptoms. Why is that happening? It's this intracellular fat that you have in your cell. It blocks the signal to insulin, and now insulin in your cell cannot talk. And that means the blood sugar, or the sugar in your blood, just stays in your blood, and we do not want that. That's going to create damage. That's going to create inflammation. That creates sickness. That's how you get a foot amputated, a toe amputated. That's how you run into big trouble, okay? So that is the why, okay? Guys, comment down below. Let me know when you want this. If there's a better time or there's a better date that works for you, make sure you're following the Diabetes Council. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Guys, you're going to see a lot more of me. We're going to be doing some really cool stuff. Make sure you're signed up on the email list, okay? And we're going to be, you know, posting more events. We're going to be doing a lot more live support groups like this. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're plugged in. I have a passion, guys. I have lots of diabetics in my family. This really hits home for me. This is why I got into this profession. I was morbidly obese as a child. I had so many health issues, and this is why I got into this. I am completely healthy now. I've never felt better. I've never felt, you know, so much energy. I never drink coffee also, by the way, but we'll get into caffeine and coffee in a later time. But I just thank you all so much for being a part of this. I thank you all so much for connecting, because it's our job to be the change. It's our job to change the world with our actions and connect and really come together as a community, get these, you know, unbiased, research-based resources, and we're just going to do this together, guys. You aren't alone. You have support. I want to be there for you. So make sure you connect with us, and I will see you all very soon. Thank you so much for joining and watching, and have a wonderful evening.